And what are we seeing now? We're seeing the Nation of Islam moving out into all their brothers. Who are their brothers? Everybody who are the sons of Hagar and the half-brother of Abraham's family, the children of Israel, all the 12 tribes throughout the Scandinavian countries, throughout Europe, through Canada, through Australia and the United States. And it says he will be in their face, in the presence. And that's what we're witnessing going on today. Brethren, that can't be stopped till Christ returns. Watch this psalm, and this is a psalm given back in the Old Testament, and see how true it is today. It seems like that psalm was written for today, doesn't it? When you look at what's going on over in the Middle East. The changing America. Addressing foreign policy. Specifically in our relationship with Israel. We need to understand this one specific point in prophecy going forward. January 11, 2009, President-elect Obama said, I am putting together a team so that starting on the day one, we have the best possible people going to be immediately engaged in the Middle East process. And I know in his heart, he's going to work as diligently and as hard as he possibly can to resolve the issues that separates the United States from the rest of the world and those going after Israel. I don't doubt that one moment. I don't doubt that Reagan, Bush, Clinton, and every president before them believed they could do that. The peace accords have been going on. The rest of the world's tried to put this peace package together, and it won't stick because they failed to understand the prophecies of what God said. Obama raises the new track on Iran. President-elect, at this particular time, he was President-elect Barack Obama, says that the U.S. will take a new approach to dealing with Iran under his leadership. He said that in a TV interview on the Sunday. This was just right after, in January, that he made this. The Guardian newspaper, which is one of the larger newspapers over in Great Britain, added that, says that there is no talks approving direct diplomatic relationships with Hamas early on, but he is being urged by advisors to initiate low-level clandestine approaches. Now, this is an approach that many presidents have actually used in the past to resolve issues. It's common. It's not unusual that this would take place. Every nation does that. This is not, as they would call, clandestine. This is normally the way things are done in diplomatic relationships. The Pope does it. He sends out envoys to open up communication and dialogue. And the way they wrote this is unfair to President Obama. But he's being advised, regardless, to be able to take the approach of going to deal with them quietly. It says a tested course would be to start contacts through Hamas and the United States intelligence services, similar to the Secret Service process through which the U.S. engaged with the PLO in 1970. The United States did that in 1970, had a furor with Israel because they had no idea the United States was talking to the PLO. It was a huge problem. It will be a huge problem again if this approach is taken. So Israel did not become aware of the contacts until much later. Those nations that they're trying to talk to want to destroy Israel from the face of the earth. Those nations, we need to get this clear in America, those nations do not want Israel to exist. Their history books, their maps, have maps they're teaching to their children of that area, and Israel is not on it. They're not in the history books, and they're not in the maps they're teaching their children. Israel, in their mind, does not exist. We need to understand that. America's new policy. I'll just read this part. This is the second half of what this little clip is. This was done January 9th. It says the up-and-coming administration, the sources say, believes that lasting peace can only be achieved by reaching out to Hamas. In other words, we can only have peace if we talk to Hamas by establishing a channel to the Palestinian terrorist organization. Now, that is a believed understanding of the advisors to our president. The only way we're going to have peace is we go talk to the terrorist. And that's what's going on right now behind quiet news, without news going into it. In the future, Israel, because of this policy, will find herself alone. She will defend herself. Now, I'm going to read this press release. It's a little long. It was put out August 5th, 2008 by the by the colonel. This was the colonel in the Home Front Command Division for Israel. So the Israeli public has been traumatized by the constant sounding of warning sirens from Haifa to Lebanese border. Now Hezbollah wants these same sirens to paralyze Tel Aviv. For the very true target of terrorism is to destroy the commercial infrastructure of its enemies. Modern Israel has lived with terrorism since its birth in 1948. Palestine Islamic suicide bombers have blown up buses, restaurants, shopping centers, and several other civilian targets. This is all talking about 2008. There were over 3,000 rockets went into Israel in 2008. Where was the news media? 3,000 rockets went into Israel in 1 year. You think the United States would have stood up for that? Yet Israelis have not run away. One does not see thousands of Israelis relocating to Europe or to North America. The same after it hit the symbolic commercial strike in the World Trade Center, New York's commercial infrastructure is stronger than ever. The comparison is just as the United States got stronger, it says we are going to get stronger. You can see the history from 1946 to today. Every time somebody went after Israel, they got bigger. They got stronger. Now, continuing. After the Holocaust, we Israelis learned that we needed to establish a homeland which would provide security for each and every Jew. If Syria and Iran think they can keep pushing the psychological and explosives war down the throats of the Jewish nation to force our population into bomb shelters, then they need to look again at New York after 9/11. Tel Aviv after several bus bombings, London after the underground and the bus bombings, and Spain's rail system and Turkey's stock exchange. He's talking about, look at the results of what happened after those times. These free democracies do not run and hide. And Israel, remembering the horrors of the Holocaust, remembering never again, will not hesitate to use any weapons it may possess, which includes the nuclear bomb. It will not hesitate to use any weapons it possesses, including nuclear, laser, electromagnetic, thermal barrier, or any other conventional or non-conventional weapons to vaporize those who threaten our children. This was put out last year. They mean it. They're not going to stop. They're not going to walk into the chambers again. The only reason there has not been a nuclear war in the Middle East is because of the United States, who has stepped in to give them what they needed to stop it. If that policy changes, you will begin to see the change of that prophetic event in Isaiah 11, verse 13, where the United States will no longer be vexed by Judah. It will separate itself from that area. We will see the change in biblical fulfillment coming to pass. To every Syrian, Iranian intelligence agency that reads this news story, think again, this was the warning, how far you will push Israel. Think again about how the U.S. ended its war with Japan, alluding to the nuclear bomb. So he's telling the rest of the world, you better think again if you think you're going to push us off the face of this earth. If you truly wish to meet Allah in 72 virgins, just hit Tel Aviv. As Clint Eastwood said, make our day. They're not playing. They are not playing. This was a press release by the Israeli colonel of their intelligence. I wanted to read that because, you see, we don't understand what's going on over there. God's telling us in Matthew 24, he says, unless he cuts time short, no flesh is going to be saved alive. Do we understand that? This is not a game. This is not about politics. This isn't about black and white. This isn't about the Republican or Democrat. We're talking about God at work, his next great plan, and Satan trying to stop it. You and I are the only one. We're talking about God's people from all the churches from around the world who have God's truth, have a responsibility to hold fast to the truth and to warn this world what's coming. And if we can't look at things from the scriptural point of view and get away from politics, we're not going to make it either, brethren. And God is going to hold us accountable. We must look at the truth from the way God tells us. And he tells us what's coming. We need to be a warning message. The Hamas and Israeli conflict, the background. The Hamas-Israeli conflict is a subplot of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which itself is a subplot of a larger Arab-Israeli conflict. The Hamas-Israeli conflict is especially complicated because of the peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis, not because of Hamas, a military Sunni fundamentalist organization, is in conflict with Fatah. They can't get along with each other. We see that all the time. The scripture says that they would be against every man. Every man, they're going to be against each other and be in everybody's face. The scriptures tell us that. Why don't we see that? Why do we believe that we can bring peace when God says it ain't going to happen? In 2008, in the Gaza Strip, they launched over 3,000 rockets into Israel. 3,000. Try to imagine how many that is a day. Every single day they lived under sirens. The Hamas hit schools. It hit hospitals. Who was the news media? They weren't there, were they? Nobody heard. When I went and looked up what was going on over there after the Israelis moved in, and I seen what was taking place, you know what? I was almost ashamed of myself. I said, how come we didn't see this? Because we listened to the news.